And so Kathleen is obviously in this difficult spot where she didn't have enough information to better communicate to the community both the short-term and long-term plans, other than we were excited about doing deeper equity plan work at every school and having her expertise to make that happen. So any failure in clearly communicating what has been clearly evident under my tenure and what you can see in the schools and what you can see in the work in the community lands with me, and I am so sorry. But the board has asked me not to replace on a permanent basis Dr. Garcia's position so that the new superintendent will have the ability to have at least that level of flexibility moving forward. And so the increasing of direct reports to me is recognizing that I am not a lame duck. Where I grew up in Salt Lake City schools. I am the first in my family to go to college. I am back here by choice and service. Love to tell you the story someday. I see Archie in the audience. He can tell you the story that I shared with him about how I got here as a lowly kid from South High School and picking on the board for closing most of the schools that I went to growing up here in this great district. But the commitment to the community has been lifelong, and it will continue as long as I'm employed as the superintendent. And I am deeply sorry for my failure to better communicate. I naively believed people had seen, watched, and understood the history, the work, the actions, and that we would move forward successfully from there. And I can go on and on for days, and I would.
But those are my chief concerns, that I'll share for now.
Rosemary.
Well, I totally agree with that, Michael. I don't recall ever asking that we not replace Patrick. I can certainly understand that we don't make a permanent replacement, that we could have had. To me, we should have done a one-year appointment. When you rename, I guess when I hear the word transition, to me, you don't then turn around and rename, give new job descriptions, give a new salary to people, and then say somehow this is just, somehow in a transitional form or, an interim form. And I think when we have these positions, first of all, they should have come to the board. We should have discussed them as a board. Is this how we want to have the new, is this how we, I don't think it's appropriate that you just change the direction of how we have the setup of the district office and then appoint people without opening it up to everyone else so that we could have maybe had somebody of diverse culture and background come into these positions. Because all we had was, as far as I can see, no one applied for these jobs. They just were elevated to these jobs. And they're just now there. And I think to say that this is protecting the new superintendent and helping them in a transition is absolutely a falsehood, because this is now we have these three positions, and I just totally disagree that somehow this helps a new superintendent. But I am very annoyed that we as a board have been left out of the loop, and this backhanded approach by putting it on a human resources consent agenda versus coming to the board and discussing it and having us say, yeah, this is the direction we would like to see the board reorganized or the district office reorganized. But instead, it's this backhanded approach, this backhanded way of doing something so that there's no input. It just gets on a consent agenda. I just find it, pretty appalling. If you want to talk transparency, this is absolutely the most lack of transparency I've ever seen in my life. Because we haven't had no input in this. We're having it today because we've all complained about it. But you're sitting out here looking at people, and I keep saying this over and over. You can say what you want, but when I look at SAGE results for our minority students, I'm sorry, we are not doing the right job, and we are not doing a great job, and you just can't tell me that. Well, it's painful to me to look at the SAGE results of our minority students, because it's like, what are we doing here? 18%, 20% proficiency in areas. It's painful. And part of that is this top-down type of administration where we're never, and it's what I've been complaining about for the 5.5 years I've been on the board. you cannot have a group where you have top-down administration and then think somehow everybody's gonna be happy. And by just giving this lip service of, I came from South High, well, big deal. I just don't get it. Anyway, that was my only point to ask